I spent 18 months developing a revolutionary cybersecurity system, one that could predict and neutralize attacks before they even happened. It was supposed to change everything. Nextech Solutions seemed like the perfect place to bring my vision to life. Well-funded, innovative, and equipped with all the resources I needed, it offered me an opportunity one couldn't turn down. I had left a comfortable position at Google, bringing years of expertise and an idea that could redefine cybersecurity. But what I didn't realize was that Victor Carlton, Nextech's CEO, had a different plan. He would wait until my project was nearly complete, then steal it. My name is Sophia Chin, and until yesterday, I was the lead AI architect at Nextech Solutions. For a year and a half, I worked 80-hour weeks, building a system from the ground up, refining every line of code, and perfecting the most advanced AI-driven security framework ever conceived. I called it Precog, inspired by the precognitive beings in my favorite sci-fi film. It wasn't just a detection tool. It was a self-learning, evolving defense system capable of identifying cyber-attack patterns before they fully formed, adapting its protocols in real time. Victor would occasionally drop by my lab, always with that polished corporate charm, always asking seemingly harmless questions. "Remarkable work, Sophia," he'd say, flashing his $1,000,000 smile, though it never quite reached his eyes. "The board is thrilled with your progress. 3 days ago, I reached the breakthrough we had all been waiting for. Precog successfully intercepted and neutralized a sophisticated attack simulation, without a single line of human intervention. It worked even better than I had anticipated, identifying vulnerabilities I hadn't even programmed it to recognize. The AI was learning, evolving beyond its original design." Excited, I scheduled a meeting with Victor to share the results. His assistant, Megan, squeezed me into his schedule for a 15-minute slot the following afternoon. But when I walked into the conference room, I found not just Victor, but also the company's lead counsel, Diana Wells, waiting for me. Victor gestured toward the chair across from him. "Sit down, Sophia," he said smoothly. "Diana's just here as a formality." Something in his tone made my stomach tighten. I sat, my laptop in my hands, ready to showcase Precog's latest success. Before I could speak, Victor slid a document across the table. "Before we discuss your project, we need to address some concerns about your employment agreement." Diana spoke next, her voice cool and professional. "Section 12.4 of your contract states that all intellectual property developed using company resources belongs exclusively to Nextech Solutions." I nodded. I'm aware of standard IP clauses. But Precog was initiated before I joined Nextech. I have documentation proving. "We've reviewed your prior work," Diana interrupted. "While you had a basic concept, the actual functioning system was developed here, on our time, with our resources." Victor leaned forward, his polished veneer beginning to crack. "Let's cut to the chase, Sophia. Precog belongs to Nextech. The board feels your compensation package is more than fair for what you've delivered." I stared at him, my mind struggling to process the words. "My compensation package?" He smiled thinly. "Your employment contract includes a success bonus. You'll receive a one-time payment of $250,000 when Precog goes to market. Generous, considering industry standards." The betrayal hit like a physical blow. $250,000 for a system that would be worth billions. For 18 months of my life. For my vision. "Tomorrow," Victor continued, oblivious to my shock, "I'm presenting Precog to our biggest investors. We expect to secure an additional $50 million in funding. After that, we'll announce our exclusive new cybersecurity product." I stared at him. "You're firing me." Diana folded her hands. "Transitioning you out," she corrected. "Effective immediately. With your bonus, of course." "Congratulations," Victor added with that same predatory smirk I had seen him use on competitors, but never on me. "Your employment is terminated." "Our legal team had confirmed it," he said. "Under my contract, my algorithm belonged to Nextech." I should have argued, threatened legal action, made a scene. But instead, a strange calm settled over me. They expected resistance. They were prepared for it. What they didn't know was that I was prepared too. 6 months earlier, I had discovered Victor accessing my secured development server after hours. Nothing was taken, but the intrusion had set off an alert. From that moment, I began implementing safeguards, not just against external threats, but against internal ones as well. I nodded quietly, handed over my laptop, and said, "Of course, Mr. Carlton. Good luck with the investor demo tomorrow. Security escorted me to my lab, watching as I packed my personal belongings into a cardboard box. I walked out of Nextech's sleek glass doors for the last time, badgeless and officially erased from the company. As I stepped into the night, I smiled, because I knew something they didn't. That night, I didn't panic. I didn't scheme. I ordered takeout, watched mindless television, and waited. At exactly 9:30 p.m., my phone rang. It was Megan. "Victor wants to see you," she said without preamble. I glanced at the time. "Now, it's almost 10 p.m. He says it's urgent. A car is already on its way to your apartment." 40 minutes later, I was back at Nextech, escorted into the same conference room. Victor sat alone at the head of the table. His immaculate composure was gone, tie loosened, hair disheveled, eyes wild with frustration. "Fix it," he demanded the moment the door closed behind me. I settled into a chair, taking my time. "Fix what exactly?" "Don't play games, Sophia," he snapped. "You sabotaged the demo." I arched an eyebrow. "How could I? I've been gone for 24 hours. Security watched me clean out my desk. I didn't take any devices. I didn't access any systems." Victor slammed a hand on the table. The test run crashed. The entire system started identifying bizarre threats that don't exist, generating thousands of false positives. It's completely unusable. I folded my hands in my lap. "Sounds like a technical issue. Have you tried turning it off and on again?" His face darkened. "This isn't funny. We have 12 major investors coming tomorrow. $50 million on the line." I smiled. "Your investors must be very excited." Victor took a deep breath, visibly forcing himself to regain control. When he spoke again, his voice had that smooth, persuasive quality that had convinced so many, including me, to trust him. "Look," he began carefully, "perhaps we were a bit hasty yesterday. I'm prepared to discuss a more equitable arrangement. Co-creator credit, a larger compensation package, maybe even some equity." I leaned back in my chair, watching him. "What exactly happened during your test run?" He hesitated, clearly debating how much to reveal. Finally, he exhaled sharply. The system turned on itself. It started identifying components of Nextech's own network as threats. Then it began generating reports, hundreds of them, documenting what it called internal ethical breaches. A slow smile spread across my face. "Precog is designed to identify threats, Victor. All threats. What exactly did you do?" His jaw tightened. "I didn't sabotage anything," I continued. "Precog is working exactly as it was designed to. It's an AI system that learns and evolves to protect networks from malicious activity. During development, I fed it case studies of cyber attacks, including instances where the threats came from inside organizations." The color drained from his face. "You taught it to spy on us." I tilted my head. "I taught it to recognize threats wherever they originate. It's detecting something it perceives as malicious within Nextech. I wonder what that could be." Understanding dawned in his eyes, followed immediately by something colder, sharper. "The system thinks I'm the threat." "Not you specifically," I replied, feigning innocence. "But perhaps certain behaviors. Unauthorized server access. Attempts to modify creator credentials. Plans to misrepresent ownership to investors." His expression darkened. "You can't prove any of that." "I don't have to." I met his gaze steadily. "Precog has been documenting everything for months. Every unauthorized access. Every copied file. Every modified document. It's all there in those reports it generated, time-stamped, logged, and recorded keystroke by keystroke." The silence that followed was profound. Victor stared at me, calculation replacing anger in his eyes. He was weighing his options, trying to decide whether to threaten, plead, or negotiate. Finally, he spoke. "What do you want?" "Full recognition as Precog's creator and primary architect. 50% ownership of all related patents and intellectual property. A board seat to oversee its ethical implementation. And $10 million in compensation for your attempt to push me out." Victor's hands clenched into fists. "That's extortion." I smiled. "No, it's negotiation. Extortion would be me sending those reports directly to your investors. And the SEC. For a long moment, he just glared at me, but then, slowly, his shoulders slumped in defeat. His voice was hoarse when he finally spoke. "The system. Can you fix it before tomorrow's demo?" "Precog doesn't need fixing," I said simply. "It needs proper authorization protocols. Right now, it's identifying unauthorized command attempts because its creator has been removed from the authentication chain. A simple fix, really. Reaching into my pocket, I pulled out a small flash drive and set it on the table between us. This contains an authentication update that will resolve the immediate issues. Consider it a good faith gesture toward our new partnership. The contracts can be drawn up tomorrow. Victor's fingers twitched as he reached for the flash drive. You planned this all along. No, I corrected. I hoped it wouldn't be necessary. But after finding you in my secure server 6 months ago, I built in protections for the system. And for myself. His eyes narrowed. How did you know I'd try to cut you out? I stood, adjusting my coat. I didn't know for certain. But precog is designed to recognize patterns and predict threats before they materialize. I glanced at him, allowing a small, satisfied smile. I guess some of that rubbed off on its creator. The next morning, I walked into Next Tech as co-founder and chief technology officer. Victor introduced me to the investors with a smile that never reached his eyes. The demo went flawlessly. Precog neutralized every simulated attack thrown at it with elegant precision. The investors were visibly impressed, murmuring among themselves, nodding in approval. One of them turned to Victor. Amazing system, he said. What inspired its development? Victor hesitated, just long enough for me to notice. Then, with careful composure, he said, it was actually Sophia's brainchild. Her vision from the beginning. Next Tech just provided the environment for that vision to flourish. I hid my smirk behind a sip of coffee. As we fielded technical questions, my phone buzzed with a notification. I glanced down. Precog now properly authenticated. Creator credentials restored. Private message received. Threat neutralized. System integrity restored. Creator protections active. I smiled. The AI was learning faster than I'd anticipated. It had recognized an internal threat and helped eliminate it, just as designed. 3 months later, Precog's first commercial implementation prevented a major attack on a banking network, saving the institution an estimated $340 million. Overnight, it became the gold standard in cybersecurity. Victor and I maintained a professional working relationship. He focused on business development, where his skills were genuinely valuable, while I led technical innovation. We weren't friends. We never would be. But we had reached an equilibrium that worked. Sometimes, I wondered if I should have handled things differently, taken legal action instead of building in safeguards. But the truth was, Victor's betrayal had revealed something crucial. Technology is only as ethical as the people who control it. That lesson became central to how we deployed Precog. Every implementation now included ethical guardrails and transparency protocols. The system didn't just protect networks, it protected itself and its users from misuse. Last week, as we celebrated Precog's successful public offering, valuing the company at $4.2 billion, a young developer approached me, eyes bright with curiosity. What's the secret to building such revolutionary technology? She asked. I thought for a moment before answering. It's not about the code, I told her. It's about understanding that the greatest security threats often come from where you least expect them. Build systems that can recognize those threats, adapt to them, and neutralize them, without compromising their integrity. I smiled, just like their creator learned to do.